Most people think the danger is out there, lurking in the wild, hidden in the dark. But what if the animal that trusted you, the pet you fed every single day, was the very one that ended you? These are people who loved their animals, knew them, and still never saw it coming. Here are the most horrifying times pets attack their owners. Sergei Grigoriev and the bear he called his own. It was a cold December morning in 2018 in the small Russian town of Ozerk. Snow covered everything. The pine forests were completely still. That stillness was about to break. Sergei Grigoriev was 41 years old, a hunter and timber cutter who had lived close to the wilderness his whole life. 4 years earlier, he had shot a bear in self-defense and found 2 orphaned cubs nearby. When he learned the surviving cub was going to be used as bait in bear baiting, he refused to allow it. He took the cub home and raised it himself. He named the bear Grumbler. For years, Grumbler roamed Sergei's land freely, but as the bear grew heavier and stronger, the wild instincts pressed closer to the surface. After Grumbler injured one of his dogs, Sergei caged him. He still believed the bear would never harm him personally. His neighbor Dmitry visited one December morning and noticed Grumbler pacing restlessly inside the cage. Unusual, since bears should be hibernating. He warned Sergei. Sergei dismissed it. He knew his bear. The next morning, Sergei decided to walk Grumbler to calm him down. He unlocked the cage, grabbed the chain, and led him out into the snow. For a few moments, everything seemed normal. Then the chain pulled tight. The anchoring post snapped. Sergei grabbed the loose chain to hold him, and that was enough. Grumbler attacked. One blow cracked his chest. A second strike tore open his neck. It was over in seconds. Sergei's 2 dogs bolted from the house toward their master. The bear killed one instantly. The other survived, barely. Grumbler stayed near the body for 2 weeks, roaming between it and the tree line. It was Sergei's sister Maria who finally came to check on him. She saw the blood from a distance. She saw the bear. She ran. When police arrived, they shot Grumbler to protect the area. Inside the house, they found the surviving dog, thin and barely alive. Maria took him home and nursed him back over several months. She said he was the last piece of her brother she had left. Paul MacDonald and the stag he trusted with his life. It was an ordinary Wednesday morning in northeast Victoria, Australia, when 46-year-old Paul MacDonald stepped outside as he did every morning to feed his animals. Paul was a farmer, patient, well-respected, the kind of man the whole community knew. His wife Mandy and their 17-year-old son Ethan were still inside. Among the regular animals on the property stood something that always drew second glances: a stag, a cross between a red deer and an elk, that Paul had been raising for 6 years. Nearly 6 feet at the shoulder, with a wide spread of antlers. The family had grown up around him. To them, he was part of the home. Inside the house, Mandy and Ethan heard shouting, then a crash. They ran outside. Paul was on the ground. The stag was standing over him, driving his hooves into Paul's chest and back. Paul was trying to push himself up. He couldn't. Mandy ran straight at the stag, screaming, trying to draw him away. For a moment it worked. Paul tried to rise. Then the stag turned and charged Mandy at full speed. The collision tore open her arm and nearly knocked her off her feet. She didn't fall. Ethan arrived behind her with a heavy piece of wood. He hit the stag once, then again. The animal retreated into the trees. Mandy and Ethan ran to Paul. He wasn't moving. Emergency responders arrived minutes later. The stag reappeared at the property edge, antlers bloody, body coiled. It was breeding season, testosterone running at its peak. Officers had no choice. The shot carried across the valley. Paul was declared dead at the scene. Mandy was hospitalized with serious injuries. Ethan sat with her. The community held a memorial in the days that followed. Mandy and Ethan still live on the same property. Paul's memory is in every corner of that land. Amanda and the python she thought she knew. In Virginia Beach, Amanda was known as the woman who kept snakes. She worked at a local exotic pet shop and kept several reptiles at home, including Diablo, a reticulated python 13 feet long that she had raised herself. She understood his routines, his behavior, his signals, or she believed she did. That morning, her husband wasn't home. She had a task that usually required 2 people, administering Diablo's medication. She had done it enough times to feel comfortable alone. She opened the cage and began. Something shifted. A tremor in her hands. The faint smell of breakfast still in the room. Whatever it was, something in Diablo moved from familiar to threat. He struck. The coils came immediately, wrapping around her torso, tightening with every breath she tried to draw. The biology of a constricting python works against struggle. The harder Amanda fought, the tighter the coils became. Within minutes, she could no longer breathe. When she didn't arrive at work, her colleagues assumed something minor. Her husband came home that evening and found her on the floor. The cage was open. Diablo was nearby. Doctors confirmed death by asphyxiation. Animal control took the snake and euthanized him. The people who knew Amanda struggled to understand it. She was not reckless. She was not a beginner. She had spent years learning these animals. And still, on a quiet morning with no one else home, that knowledge was not enough to save her. The Travis chimpanzee attack that changed exotic pet laws. On the afternoon of February 16, 2009, the quiet city of Stamford, Connecticut, became the center of one of the most horrifying pet attacks in modern history. Sandra Harold had raised a chimpanzee named Travis, almost like a child. Travis had lived with the family for over 14 years and weighed nearly 91 kilograms, roughly 200 pounds. Chimpanzees are extremely intelligent animals, sharing about 98% of their DNA with humans, but primatologists warn they are also vastly stronger. Research from primate biomechanics studies shows adult chimpanzees can be 4 to 5 times stronger than an average human due to higher muscle fiber density. At around 3:40 in the afternoon, Harold called her friend Charla Nash, aged 55, asking for help bringing Travis back into the house after he ran outside with car keys. Nash approached the animal holding one of his favorite toys, a Tickle Me Elmo doll. But something had changed. Nash had a different hairstyle and Travis suddenly became confused and aggressive. In seconds, he launched a violent attack. According to police reports, the chimpanzee tore apart Nash's face and hands with his powerful jaws and arms. Sandra Harold tried desperately to stop the attack, striking Travis with a shovel and even stabbing him with a kitchen knife. She then called emergency services, screaming for help. When officers arrived, Travis charged the police car, forcing an officer to shoot him several times to stop the rampage. Charla Nash survived, but she lost both hands, her eyesight, and much of her face, requiring years of reconstructive surgery. The incident shocked the world and triggered new debates about the dangers of keeping powerful primates as pets. The tiger that turned on its owner in Zanesville. On the evening of October 18, 2011, authorities in Muskingum County, Ohio, received a series of emergency calls that sounded almost unbelievable. Residents were reporting lions, tigers, and bears walking freely along rural roads. At the center of the chaos was Terry Thompson, a 62-year-old man who owned a private exotic animal farm outside the town of Zanesville. Thompson had spent years collecting dangerous wildlife, including Bengal tigers, African lions, leopards, wolves, and grizzly bears. Investigators later confirmed that Thompson had been keeping over 50 exotic animals on his property. Wildlife experts say adult Bengal tigers can weigh more than 225 kilograms and possess a bite force exceeding 1,000 pounds per square inch, powerful enough to crush bone instantly. Research published by the Smithsonian National Zoo also notes that a tiger can leap over 6 meters in a single bound. According to police reports, sometime shortly before 6:30 in the evening, Thompson released the animals from their cages. When officers arrived, they discovered Thompson dead on the property and dozens of predators roaming the surrounding countryside. Among the most dangerous were 18 Bengal tigers, one of the most powerful land predators on Earth. Sheriff Matt Lutz later told reporters that the situation had become a life-or-death emergency. With night approaching and nearby homes in danger, officers had no choice but to stop the animals before anyone else was attacked. Over the next several hours, authorities shot and killed 48 dangerous animals, including tigers, lions, and bears. The shocking incident forced the state of Ohio to tighten laws governing private ownership of exotic predators. The 8-foot python that killed a snake lover. On the evening of October 30, 2019, emergency responders in Oxford, Indiana, made a grim discovery inside a home filled with exotic reptiles. Laura Hurst, a 36-year-old woman from Battleground, Indiana, was found lying unresponsive on the floor with an 8-foot reticulated python wrapped around her neck. The home where she was found contained an enormous reptile collection. According to Indiana State Police Sergeant Kim Riley, investigators counted about 140 snakes inside the building, and Hurst personally owned around 20 of them. She reportedly visited the snake house roughly twice a week because she was deeply passionate about reptiles and was known locally as someone who absolutely loved snakes. Authorities say the python had coiled around her neck in a classic constriction posture. The person who discovered Hurst managed to unwrap the snake, but by the time paramedics arrived, she could not be revived. An autopsy later determined she had died from asphyxiation caused by the snake's constriction. Scientifically, large pythons kill prey using powerful muscles rather than venom. Research in reptile biomechanics shows that constrictor snakes tighten their coils each time a victim exhales, rapidly cutting off blood circulation and oxygen to the brain, which can cause unconsciousness within minutes. Although such deaths are rare, the reticulated python, Malaopithon reticulatus, is one of the longest snakes in the world and can exceed 20 feet in length in the wild. The pet cassowary that killed its owner in Florida. On the morning of April 12, 2019, emergency responders in Alachua County, Florida, received a disturbing call from a rural property near Gainesville. A 75-year-old man had been severely injured by one of the most dangerous birds on Earth. The animal responsible was a cassowary, a large flightless bird native to Australia and New Guinea. The victim, Marvin Hajos, had been raising several of these rare birds on his private property for years. Cassowaries may look calm, but zoologists consider them extremely dangerous. According to research from the San Diego Zoo Global Wildlife Alliance, adult cassowaries can grow up to 1.8 meters tall and weigh more than 70 kilograms. Their real weapon, however, is hidden on their feet. Each cassowary carries a dagger-shaped claw measuring up to 12 centimeters long, capable of slicing through flesh with a single kick. Wildlife biologists have compared the claw to a small knife attached to the bird's leg. Investigators believe Hajos either tripped or fell near one of the birds, which triggered the cassowary's defensive instinct. The bird immediately attacked. Cassowaries defend themselves by jumping forward and kicking downward, using their powerful legs to slash at perceived threats. With running speeds reaching 50 kilometers per hour, the bird can strike with incredible force. When paramedics arrived at the scene, Hajos had suffered severe bleeding injuries consistent with cassowary claw strikes. Despite emergency treatment, he died shortly afterward. Wildlife experts later explained that cassowaries are responsible for very few recorded human deaths. But when attacks occur, the injuries can be catastrophic. The pit bull attack in Compton. On the morning of February 15, 2024, a horrifying incident unfolded in Compton, California, when a man was fatally attacked by the very dogs he owned. The victim, Dominic Anthony Cooper, 35 years old, was believed to be breeding pit bulls in his backyard kennel when the attack occurred. According to the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, Cooper had gone into the kennel area to feed several of the dogs late Thursday night. Investigators believe a fight may have broken out among the animals, which then escalated into a coordinated attack on him. The next morning, Cooper's girlfriend discovered his body inside the yard and immediately contacted emergency services. Deputies arriving at the scene reported an extremely dangerous situation. Multiple aggressive pit bulls were still inside the enclosure near the victim's body, making it difficult for authorities to enter the property safely. Animal control officials later confirmed that 13 pit bulls, including 5 adults and 8 puppies, were present at the location, and video evidence suggested the animals were involved in the attack. Because of the danger posed to the community, all 13 dogs were ultimately euthanized. A medical examiner later ruled Cooper's death an accident caused by multiple traumatic injuries inflicted by dogs, though investigators noted that no single injury alone appeared immediately fatal. From a scientific perspective, experts note that severe dog attacks often occur when multiple dogs form a pack response, triggering predatory instincts similar to wild canids. Behavioral studies published in the Journal of Veterinary Behavior explain that once pack aggression begins, the animals can rapidly escalate the attack within seconds. The lion that killed its owner during a routine feeding. On the afternoon of May 27, 2018, a wildlife park near Brits, Northwest Province, South Africa, became the site of a horrifying attack that stunned conservationists around the world. The victim was Mike Hodge, a 66-year-old lodge owner who had spent years working with large African predators at Marikele Predator Center. Hodge was not an amateur. He had decades of experience handling lions and other big cats. The lioness involved in the incident had lived at the facility and was considered familiar with her caretakers. But big cats follow instincts that no amount of familiarity can erase. Adult African lions can weigh between 120 and 190 kilograms, and their bite force can exceed 600 pounds per square inch, according to predator biomechanics research published in the Journal of Zoology. On that day, Hodge entered the lion enclosure for what witnesses described as a routine feeding procedure. At approximately 2:30 in the afternoon, something triggered the lioness. In a split second, she lunged. Witnesses reported hearing Hodge shout as the lioness grabbed him with her jaws and dragged him several meters across the enclosure. Staff members attempted to intervene, but approaching a feeding lion is extremely dangerous. Emergency responders arrived quickly and rushed Hodge to the hospital. Despite emergency treatment, he later died from severe neck and chest injuries caused by the attack. Wildlife experts later explained that lions are apex predators designed to kill prey many times larger than themselves. Even experienced handlers can be vulnerable when an animal's natural hunting response is triggered. The tragedy reignited debates among conservationists about the risks of close human interaction with large predators in private wildlife facilities. The pet hippopotamus that killed the man who raised it. On November 13, 2011, one of the most unusual and horrifying pet attacks occurred along the Limpopo River in South Africa. The victim was Marius Els, a 40-year-old farmer who had become famous locally for raising a massive hippopotamus named Humphrey. Els had rescued the animal when it was young and believed he had formed a special bond with it. Photographs showed him swimming with the hippo and even riding on its back. Many neighbors warned him repeatedly that the situation was extremely dangerous. According to wildlife biologists, hippopotamuses are responsible for more human deaths in Africa than almost any other large animal. Data from the African Wildlife Foundation estimates they cause about 500 human fatalities every year. An adult male hippo can weigh more than 1,500 kilograms, and their jaws can open nearly 180 degrees, exposing tusks that can grow over 50 centimeters long. On that afternoon, Els entered the water near the riverbank where Humphrey was resting. Witnesses later reported hearing shouting from the river moments later. The hippopotamus suddenly charged. Hippos are capable of running 30 kilometers per hour on land and move even faster through water. The animal grabbed Els with its massive jaws and dragged him beneath the surface. By the time rescue teams arrived, the attack had already ended. Els's body was later recovered from the river several hours later. Wildlife officials confirmed that the injuries were consistent with a hippopotamus bite and crushing attack. The story shocked people across South Africa because Els had always insisted that Humphrey was gentle and would never harm him. Experts later repeated a warning often heard in wildlife science. Hippos may appear calm, but they are highly territorial and extremely unpredictable. If this video made you think twice, hit subscribe and drop a comment below. Which case shocked you the most? We'll see you in the next one.